The knocking starts soft, then gets louder. My whole body locks up. Craig. It has to be Craig. He said he'd come back. Sinclair's fingernails dig into my
It's gonna be
shoulders,
okay.
her face buried
We're
in
here
my
for you
neck,
both.
and I can feel her heartbeat hammering against mine. But then I hear it. Elsa, please. It's me. That voice. My boss. The man whose penthouse I've cleaned for 18 months without him noticing I exist. What's he doing here? I shouldn't open it. But my hand moves anyway, turning the lock, cracking the door just enough to see his face. And the second he sees me, everything stops. His jaw goes slack. His eyes trace the damage, the swollen eye, the split lip, the bruises wrapping around my throat like fingerprints. I'm still in the same mustard cardigan from last night, torn at the shoulder where Craig yanked me backward. Sinclair whimpers, clutching her teddy bear tighter. Mikhail's hands ball into fists at his sides, and when he finally speaks, his voice comes out low and dangerous. Who did this? And I don't know how to tell him the truth. The monster who did this works for him. 2 weeks ago, I stopped answering my phone, stopped reading texts, stopped pretending I could hold my life together with duct tape and prayer. I told myself it was temporary, just until the bruises faded, until I could cover the damage with enough makeup to look presentable again. Until I could walk into Mikhail Romano's penthouse and clean his floors without him noticing something was wrong. Because that's what I do. I survive. I adapt. I make myself small enough to slip through the cracks. But Craig found me anyway. He always does. Kicked in my apartment door at 2 in the morning, drunk and raging about some imaginary slight, and Sinclair. God, Sinclair watched the whole thing. 6 years old, and she's already learned to go silent when he shows up, to make herself invisible, to clutch that damn teddy bear and pray he doesn't notice her. I thought I'd protected her by leaving him 2 years ago. Turns out, leaving just made him angrier. And now Mikhail's standing in my doorway, staring at me like I'm a puzzle he can't solve, and all I can think is, this is it. This is the moment he realizes I'm not worth the trouble, that I'm just another broken woman with too much baggage and a kid who's seen too much. But instead of walking away, he does something I don't expect. He steps inside. 2 weeks. That's how long I'd been hiding in this apartment, jumping at every sound, checking the lock 17 times a day, wondering when Craig would come back to finish what he started. The knock made my heart slam against my ribs. Sinclair looked up from her coloring book, those big brown eyes going wide. Mommy? I pressed my finger to my lips, pulled her close. We'd been through this drill before. When Daddy comes, we stay quiet. We stay small. We pretend we're not home. Except the voice on the other side wasn't Craig's. Elsa? It's Mikhail Romano. I need to know you're okay. My boss. My billionaire boss was standing outside my door in a neighborhood where cars like his got stripped for parts. Sinclair whispered, "That's the nice man from your work." She'd seen him once when I had to bring her to the estate during a childcare emergency. He'd smiled at her, asked her name, told her she had a beautiful smile. Small kindnesses I'd replayed in my head more times than I should have, because men who smile at children without expecting something in return don't exist in my world. Except maybe they do, and I just forgot what safe looks like. I touched my face, still swollen, still screaming evidence of 3 nights ago when Craig broke through my window because the new locks on the door weren't enough. Never enough. The mirror this morning had shown me a stranger. Purple landscapes across my cheekbone, an eye I could barely see through. A split lip that wouldn't stop reminding me how his ring had caught when he backhanded me for disrespecting him by moving apartments without his permission. The cardigan I'd thrown on was torn at the shoulder from where he'd grabbed me, yanked me back when I tried to run to Sinclair's room. My baby had watched from the hallway, clutching that teddy bear Mr. Romano gave her that one time, not making a sound because she's learned, God, she's learned so young, that noise makes it worse. I couldn't let him see me like this. Couldn't let anyone see the proof of my failure stamped across my face. but he knocked again. Patient, not going away. Elsa, please, I'm worried about you. Worried. About me. When was the last time someone used that word and meant it? I glanced down at Sinclair. She nodded. Like a 6-year-old could give permission for decisions that might change everything. My hands shook as I undid the chain. The new one Craig snapped like a toy, and opened the door 6 inches. Mikhail Romano stood there in his navy suit, looking so out of place in this hallway with its flickering lights and smell of someone's burnt dinner. His dark hair was perfectly styled like always, but his face did something I didn't expect when he saw me. It broke, not dramatically, not with pity. But I watched something crack behind his eyes, this flash of rage so controlled it was almost beautiful, followed by something softer that made my throat tight. Jesus Christ. His voice came out quiet, deadly. Who did this to you? I couldn't answer. The words stuck somewhere between my heart and my mouth, tangled up with shame and fear and this wild, stupid hope that maybe, someone actually cared. Mr. Romano, I'm sorry, I meant to call. Who did this? I flinched, not because he was loud, he wasn't, but because care feels like violence when you've been trained to expect the opposite. Sinclair shifted in my arms, looked up at me, then at him. The bad man, she said simply, in that devastating honesty children have. He came through the window. He hurt Mommy and said bad words about me. I watched Mikhail's jaw clench, watched his hands curl into fists at his sides before he forced them open. When he looked at me again, his voice was so gentle it hurt worse than Craig's fists. Pack a bag. Both of you. You're coming with me. I can't. I don't. This isn't your problem. Elsa. He said my name like it mattered. Like I mattered. You've worked for me for 18 months. You've never been late, never complained, never asked for anything. And I've watched you move through my home like you're apologizing for existing. I should have asked questions sooner. Tears burned behind my eyes. I hadn't cried in 3 days. Crying gives Craig satisfaction, but this man standing in my doorway with his expensive suit and his actual concern was cracking something open inside me. He'll find me, I whispered. He always finds me. That's why I missed work. I was trying to figure out how to leave the state, how to disappear, but my voice broke. He's everywhere, and he's rich, Mr. Romano. Not like you, but enough to make my life hell. Mikhail's expression went from concerned to absolutely cold. How rich? Rich enough to hire lawyers. Rich enough that restraining orders are just paper to him. I see. Something shifted in his face, the businessman sliding into place behind the concerned human. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack essentials for you and your daughter. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. And then we're going to have a conversation about who this man is and how we're going to make sure he never touches you again. You don't understand. I understand power. He cut me off, not meanly, but firmly. And I understand that right now, you don't have any. So let me lend you mine. Sinclair tugged my sleeve. Mommy, I like him. He's nice. Can we go? Out of the mouths of babes. I looked past Mikhail into my apartment, the broken window covered with cardboard, the laptop on the kitchen table where I'd been taking online classes between shifts and panic attacks, the spreadsheet I'd made of cities far enough away that maybe Craig couldn't find us. All that planning, all that hope, and still he'd found me. Maybe running wasn't the answer. Maybe for once in my life, I could try standing still and letting someone help. Okay, I whispered. 15 minutes later, our life fit into 2 duffel bags. Everything we owned, everything we were. Mikhail carried them both without comment, led us down those stairs to his Mercedes that looked like a spaceship in this parking lot. Sinclair climbed into the back seat, buckled herself in, hugged her teddy bear. I slid into the passenger seat and caught my reflection in the side mirror. Bruised, broken, terrified. But leaving. Finally leaving. Mikhail started the engine, looked over at me. What's his name? I swallowed hard. Craig Burgos. I didn't see it then, the flash of recognition in Mikhail's eyes, the way his grip tightened on the steering wheel. Didn't know that name would mean something to him beyond just the man who hurt his employee. Didn't know Craig's world and Mikhail's world were about to collide in ways that would change everything. All I knew was that for the first time in 2 years, I was driving away from that apartment with someone who looked at my bruises and saw an injustice instead of a weakness. And God help me, I wanted to believe that mattered. I woke up not knowing where I was. The ceiling was wrong, too high, too white, with crown molding that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Sunlight filtered through curtains that weren't the thin polyester ones from Target I'd hung in our apartment. These were heavy, cream-colored, the kind that actually blocked light instead of just pretending to. My body remembered before my brain did. The ache in my ribs when I breathed, the throb in my cheekbone, the split lip that caught when I tried to wet it with my tongue. Then it came rushing back, Craig through the window, Mikhail at my door, the Mercedes ride through streets that got progressively cleaner until we pulled through iron gates into another world entirely. I sat up too fast and pain shot through my side. The room spun. "Mommy's awake!" Sinclair's voice, bright and unburdened, came from somewhere nearby. She appeared in the doorway, wearing pajamas I didn't recognize. Soft pink cotton with little stars. The tags still attached because someone had bought them new for her last night while I'd been moving through shock like I was underwater. "Baby, where are we?" "Mr. Romano's house. It's so big, Mommy. There's a library with a ladder that slides, and a lady named Miss Catherine made me pancakes with chocolate chips, and there's a garden with real flowers, not the fake ones at the store, and—" Sinclair. I tried to sound normal, but my voice cracked. "Come here, baby." She climbed onto the bed, carefully, like she knew I was breakable, and nestled against my good side. Her hair smelled like expensive shampoo, not the dollar store brand we usually used. Someone had helped her wash it, taken care of her while I'd apparently passed out from exhaustion the moment my head hit this pillow that felt like sleeping on a cloud. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly, her small fingers tracing the air near my bruised cheek without touching it. "I'm okay." The lie tasted familiar in my mouth. How many times had I said those words to her? How many times had she heard me crying through bedroom walls and pretended she didn't? A soft knock interrupted us. A woman appeared, older, maybe 60, with kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore simple black pants and a white blouse, professional but warm. "Mrs. McLemore, I'm Catherine Craddock, Mr. Romano's head housekeeper. I apologize for not introducing myself properly last night. You were quite exhausted." Her voice carried a gentle authority, like a grandmother who'd seen things but chose kindness anyway. "I've laid out some clothes for you in the bathroom. Nothing fancy, just comfortable things. And when you're ready, there's breakfast waiting. But there's no rush. You take all the time you need." I stared at her, this stranger offering me comfort like it was normal, like I deserved it. I need to figure out where I'm going. I can't stay here. This is too much." Catherine's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. "Mr. Romano has made himself clear on that point. You're staying until you're healed, until you feel safe, and until you decide what comes next, not a moment before you're ready." "But I don't. I can't pay for—" "Nobody's asking you to pay for anything, dear." She moved into the room with the ease of someone who knew every inch of this space. "Now, I've been working for Mikhail Romano for 12 years. And I've never seen him bring anyone home except business associates who bored him to tears. The fact that you're here, that your daughter's here, tells me everything I need to know about how seriously he's taking the situation. Sinclair piped up, Miss Catherine taught me how to fold napkins into swans. Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the sheer impossibility of this situation, I almost smiled. Did she? She's a quick learner. Catherine patted Sinclair's head. Now, little miss, why don't you show your mother that puzzle we started in the sunroom? Give her a few minutes to freshen up? Sinclair bounced off the bed with the resilience only children possess, grabbing my hand. Come on, Mommy, you have to see the puzzle. It's 1,000 pieces, and it's a castle with a princess and… Baby, I need to wash up first. Can you go start without me? I'll be right there. She hesitated, and I saw it, that flash of fear that I'd disappear if she let me out of her sight. Craig had taught her that too. People you love vanish into rooms and come back different, or don't come back at all. I promise, I said, holding up my pinky. 5 minutes. She hooked her pinky with mine, extracted the sacred oath, and followed Catherine out. Their voices faded down what must have been a hallway longer than my entire apartment. Alone, I let myself feel it. The weight of 2 weeks spent barricaded in that apartment, jumping at every sound, checking locks obsessively, Googling, how far can you drive on $300? Because that's all I had saved. The plan had been to grab Sinclair from school, drive until the gas ran out, figure it out from there. Except Craig knew that plan too. He always knew. I caught my reflection in the mirror above the dresser and flinched. 3 days since he'd beaten me, and the bruises were in that ugly phase. Purple fading to green-yellow, the kind of colors that made strangers look away. My eye had opened more, but the white part was still bloodshot. The split in my lip had scabbed over wrong. This was what Mikhail Romano saw when I opened that door. This broken thing wearing a torn cardigan, clutching a child, barely holding it together. The bathroom was ridiculous. Marble everything, a tub big enough to swim in, towels so soft they felt illegal. On the counter, Catherine had left clothes, gray joggers, a white t-shirt, a zip-up hoodie, all with tags still attached. Size small. How did she know my size? I showered carefully, watching pink-tinged water circle the drain as I washed Craig off my skin for maybe the 100th time. The water pressure was aggressive, like it wanted to beat the trauma out of me through sheer force. I let it try. 20 minutes later, dressed in clothes that actually fit, I found my way downstairs by following Sinclair's laughter. The estate, because house felt insufficient, opened up as I walked. High ceilings, art that probably cost more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Spaces designed by someone who understood beauty, but maybe not warmth. Until I found the sunroom. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens that looked like someone's full-time job. Sinclair sat at a table working on her puzzle, tongue poking out in concentration the way she did when she was fully absorbed. Catherine stood nearby, arranging breakfast on a sideboard, fresh fruit, pastries, coffee that smelled like it cost more per cup than my hourly wage. And in the corner, sitting in a leather chair with a tablet, looking somehow more human in casual clothes than he ever did in those suits, Mikhail Romano. He looked up when I entered, and I watched him do what everyone does when they see fresh bruises in daylight. The quick assessment, the flash of anger, the controlled neutrality that followed. Good morning. He stood, set the tablet aside. How are you feeling? How was I feeling? Terrified, overwhelmed, confused why a man like him cared what happened to a woman like me. Angry that I needed saving, grateful that someone finally tried. Lost, I said honestly, because lying took energy I didn't have. Something crossed his face, understanding maybe. He gestured to the table. Breakfast first, then we'll talk about everything else. Mr. Romano, I need to understand what's happening, why you're doing this, what you expect from me in return, because I can't. I don't have anything to… Elsa. He said my name gently, but firmly enough to stop my spiral. Sit. Eat. Let your daughter enjoy her puzzle. Give yourself one morning where the only thing required of you is healing. Everything else can wait. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist that people like him didn't help people like me without strings attached, that kindness always had a price, that I needed to know the cost before I accepted another minute in this beautiful prison. But Sinclair called out, "Mommy, I found the princess's crown. Come see!" And Catherine was placing a plate in front of me with food I hadn't had to cook or pay for, and the coffee smelled so good it made my eyes water, and I was just so tired of running, of planning escapes, of checking locks, of teaching my daughter to be small and quiet and ready to disappear. Maybe, just for one morning, I could let myself be here. Be safe. Be cared for by strangers who asked for nothing except that I eat breakfast and let my bruises heal. I sat. I ate. I watched Sinclair find puzzle pieces while Mikhail returned to his tablet, and Catherine hummed something soft while tidying, and for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't listening for footsteps coming to hurt me. That terrified me more than anything. The puzzle castle was almost finished when Mikhail cleared his throat. "Elsa, when you're ready, I'd like to speak with you, privately. There are some things we need to discuss." My stomach dropped. Here it was. The price. The expectations. The part where he explained what I owed him for last night's rescue, and this morning's breakfast, and these clothes that fit too perfectly. Sinclair looked up, puzzle piece frozen in her hand. "Is Mommy in trouble?" "No, sweetheart." Mikhail's voice softened in that way it did when he talked to her. "Your mom isn't in trouble at all. We just need to have a grown-up conversation. Miss Catherine, would you mind staying with Sinclair?" Catherine appeared like she'd been waiting for the cue. "How about we go explore that library I mentioned, see if we can find some books for you to take home?" "Can we, Mommy?" Sinclair's eyes lit up, then immediately dimmed. "Wait, are we going home? To the apartment?" The apartment with the broken window and the bloodstain on the kitchen floor I'd scrubbed for an hour but couldn't fully erase. The apartment where Craig knew exactly which floorboards creaked, which locks were weakest, which neighbor wouldn't call the police no matter how loud things got. "No, baby." The word came out before I'd even decided. "We're not going back there." "Then where are we going?" I looked at Mikhail helplessly, because I didn't have an answer. Didn't have a plan beyond the failed one to drive until we ran out of gas and money. "That's what your mom and I need to talk about," Mikhail said gently. "But whatever happens, you're both safe. I promise you that." Sinclair studied him with that unnerving intensity 6-year-olds have when they're deciding if an adult is trustworthy. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded and took Catherine's offered hand. "Come on then, little one. Let's give the grown-ups their boring talk." Catherine winked at me as they left, this small gesture that said it'll be okay, even though she couldn't possibly know that. Then it was just me and Mikhail Romano in this sunroom that cost more than my life, and the silence felt heavy with everything unsaid. He didn't sit in the chair across from me like I expected. Instead, he leaned against the window frame, keeping distance between us like he understood that proximity felt threatening when you'd been hurt. "I need you to tell me everything," he said. "About Craig Burgos. About how long this has been happening. About why you didn't ask for help sooner." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Ask for help? From who? The police who took 3 reports and did nothing? The judge who granted a restraining order that Craig wiped his ass with? The landlord who said if I couldn't pay rent on time, maybe I should work things out with my man?" Mikhail's jaw tightened. "From me." "You?" I stared at him. "Mr. Romano, I clean your house. I'm the invisible person who makes your life run smoothly so you can focus on billion-dollar deals. Why would I think you'd care what happens to me after I clock out?" Because I'm not. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. Because I should have noticed. Should have asked why you flinched when I entered rooms too quickly. Why you never took days off even when you were clearly sick. Why you looked at kindness like it was a trap. It usually is. The words hung there, ugly and true. Mikhail crossed his arms. Start from the beginning. How did you meet him? I closed my eyes, reached back to a version of myself that felt like a stranger. I was 21, working 2 jobs, trying to save for college. Craig came into the restaurant where I waited tables. He was older, 28, wore nice suits, drove a nice car. He said I was beautiful, said I deserved better than scraping by on tips and dreams. Let me guess, he offered to take care of you. He offered to help me. I emphasized the distinction. Said he'd pay for my classes if I moved in with him. Said I could quit the night job, focus on school. It felt like a miracle, you know? Someone actually seeing my potential instead of just seeing a pair of hands to exploit. Mikhail said nothing, just listened with that intensity that made me feel like every word mattered. For 6 months it was good, great even. Then I got pregnant. I touched my stomach reflexively, remembering that terror mixed with joy. Everything changed. He said I'd trapped him, that I'd gotten pregnant on purpose to lock him down. When I told him I wanted to keep the baby, he said fine, but I was done with school. His money was going to support his child, not my fantasy degree. Did he hit you then? Not then, not at first. I wrapped my arms around myself. He was smarter than that. Started with control. Who I could see, nobody. Where I could go, nowhere without him. What I could wear, eat, think, feel. He turned me into this hollow thing that existed only to serve him and Sinclair. And when I finally pushed back, when Sinclair was maybe 2, and I said I wanted to go back to school online, just a few classes, I didn't want to say it. Didn't want to give voice to the moment everything broke. He hit you, Mikhail finished quietly. He backhanded me so hard I saw stars, told me I was getting uppity, that I needed to remember my place. The memory tasted like blood and shame. And the worst part? I apologized. I actually apologized to him for making him angry. Elsa. It got worse after that. Regular beatings for random infractions, too much salt in dinner, Sinclair crying too loud, me asking for grocery money. Once he broke my wrist because I smiled at a cashier, said I was flirting, making him look stupid. Mikhail pushed off the window frame, started pacing, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides like he wanted to hit something but was forcing himself not to. When did you leave? 2 years ago. Sinclair was 4. She'd started asking questions. Why does Daddy hurt Mommy? Why do we have to be quiet all the time? I realized she was learning that this was normal, that this was what love looked like. Tears I'd been holding back started falling. I couldn't let her grow up thinking it was okay for men to hurt women. So I waited until Craig went on a business trip, packed what fit in garbage bags, and disappeared. Where did you go? Women's shelter for 3 months. They helped me file for divorce, get the restraining order, find an apartment and this job. Gave me resources, therapy, hope. I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. I thought I'd escaped. Thought changing my name back to Macklemore instead of Burgos would be enough. But Craig's connected. He hired investigators, found me 6 months after I left. And he's been stalking you since? Stalking, threatening, showing up at random times to remind me he's there. He'll go quiet for months, let me almost believe I'm safe. Then suddenly he's outside Sinclair's school or sitting in his car across from my apartment. The police say without proof of physical violence, there's nothing they can do. The restraining order is just paper. Until 3 nights ago. Until 3 nights ago, I repeated hollowly. He broke through my window, said he'd heard I was planning to leave town. I don't know how he knew. I never told anyone, and he wasn't going to let me take his daughter away from him. Never mind that he hasn't paid $1 of child support, never asks to see her, never gave a damn about her until she became leverage. Mikhail stopped pacing. What happened? Exactly. This part was harder. This part made me want to crawl out of my skin. He grabbed me, threw me against the wall, started screaming about how I was nothing without him, how I'd always be nothing, how he made me and he could break me. My voice went flat, detached, the way it did when trauma tried to protect me from the memory. Sinclair came out of her room, started crying. He yelled at her to shut up, called her. My voice cracked. I couldn't say what he called my baby. He called her names? Mikhail asked softly. He said she was probably a mistake. Said she was the reason I was defective. Said maybe she'd be better off in foster care where someone competent could raise her. Jesus Christ. That's when I fought back. Told him to leave her alone, that this was between us. He hit me, multiple times. I tried to get to Sinclair, to protect her, but he grabbed my cardigan, yanked me back, kept hitting me. I touched my cheekbone without meaning to. I don't remember much after that. I think I passed out. When I woke up, he was gone and Sinclair was in the corner holding her teddy bear, not making a sound. Just staring. The silence after my words felt like mourning. Mikhail crossed the room slowly, carefully, and crouched in front of my chair so we were eye level. His eyes weren't full of pity. Thank God, I couldn't handle pity, but something fiercer. Protective rage wrapped in controlled calm. Listen to me very carefully, he said. Craig Burgos is never going to touch you again. Do you understand? Never. You can't promise that. He's rich, connected. I'm richer, more connected. He said it without arrogance, just fact. And now that I know his name, I'm going to make sure he understands what happens when someone hurts what's mine. My breath caught. What's yours? He blinked, seemed to realize what he'd said. My employee. Someone under my protection. But that wasn't what he meant. I could see it in the way color rose in his neck, the way he stood abruptly and put distance between us again. I'm calling my lawyers today. They'll review your case, file additional restraining orders with more teeth, explore criminal charges. I'm also hiring private security. I can't afford. I'm not asking you to afford anything. He cut me off firmly. This is happening. You and Sinclair are staying here until we've established your safety. I have 12 bedrooms in this house doing nothing but collecting dust. You'll use one. You'll heal. And when you're ready, we'll figure out next steps. Why? The question burst out of me. Why do you care this much? I'm just your maid. You barely knew I existed 3 weeks ago. He turned back to face me, and something in his expression made my heart stumble. I knew you existed, Elsa. I knew exactly who you were. The woman who reorganized my library by subject instead of color because books deserve more respect than decoration. The one who left thank you notes when I gave staff bonuses, actual handwritten notes that no one else bothered with. The one who asked if she could take home books I'd finished reading so she could learn something new. He stepped closer. I knew you existed. I just didn't know you were drowning. Before I could respond, Sinclair's voice rang out from somewhere deep in the house. Mommy! I found a book about a princess who saves herself. Of course she did. Mikhail smiled slightly. Your daughter has good taste. She learned from her mother. The words came out defensive, like I needed to prove I'd given Sinclair something good despite everything. I can see that. His voice gentled. Get some rest. Let Catherine take care of you both today. Tomorrow we'll start building your way out of this. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more question. Does Craig know where you work? My blood went cold. No, I never told him. I changed jobs right after I left, made sure nothing in public records connected me to Romano Enterprises. Good. Let's keep it that way. Something dark crossed his face. For now. He left me there in the sunroom with its 1,000-piece puzzle and its impossible promises, wondering how my life had split so completely. 2 weeks ago I was hiding in a broken apartment with no hope, and now I was sitting in a billionaire's estate being told I'd never be heard again. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly it ached. But I'd believed promises before, and every single one had shattered like that window Craig climbed through 3 nights ago. Still, Sinclair's laughter echoed through the hallways, pure and unafraid. And I thought, maybe this time the promise would hold. 3 weeks crawled by like months. Dr. Brianna Herrick arrived on day 5, a black woman in her 40s with kind eyes and zero tolerance for my bullshit. Mikal had arranged it all without asking, just showed up at breakfast and said, "There's someone I'd like you to meet. She specializes in trauma recovery." I almost said no, almost grabbed Sinclair and whatever dignity I had left and walked out those iron gates on principle. Because I didn't need some therapist poking around in my head, telling me what I already knew, that I was broken, damaged, a cautionary tale. But then Dr. Herrick sat across from me in Mikhail's office and said, "I'm not here to fix you, Elsa. You're not broken. You survived. And now I'm here to help you figure out what survival looks like when the immediate threat is gone." That's what got me. When the immediate threat is gone. As if Craig could just be gone. As if safety was something that could actually exist. Our first session, I cried for 40 minutes straight. Didn't say a word, just cried while she sat there, not judging, not rushing me, just being present like my pain deserved witness. Second session, I told her about the nightmares. Waking up at 3 a.m. convinced Craig was in the room, checking locks that didn't need checking. The way my body flinched before my brain caught up whenever someone moved too quickly. Third session, she asked about Sinclair. "She's seeing someone too," I said defensively. "A child specialist. Dr. Ayla Parr." Mikhail arranged it. "That's good. But I'm asking about you and Sinclair, how you're processing this together." I stared at my hands. I don't know how to talk to her about it. She saw everything, heard everything, and now she's here in this mansion acting like we're on vacation, and I don't know if she understands what happened or if she's just really good at pretending, like I taught her. What do you want her to understand? That it wasn't her fault. That she didn't do anything wrong. That she deserves, my voice cracked. That she deserves better than what I gave her. Dr. Herrick leaned forward. "What you gave her was life, Elsa. You gave her life, and then you gave her escape. You're still giving her safety every single day you wake up and choose healing over hiding. That's not nothing." But it felt like nothing when I passed mirrors and saw bruises fading from purple to yellow-green. When I woke up gasping from dreams where Craig found us, dragged us back, finished what he started. When Sinclair asked casual questions like, "Is Mr. Romano going to make the bad man go away forever?" And I didn't have an answer that felt honest. By week 2, the bruises had faded enough that I looked almost normal, almost like a person who hadn't been beaten 3 weeks ago. Almost like someone who deserved to be sitting in this sunroom eating food she didn't cook, wearing clothes she didn't pay for, accepting kindness from a man who kept his distance, but whose eyes followed her daughter with something that looked suspiciously like affection. Mikhail was careful, never pushed, never demanded. Just existed in the same space with this quiet intensity that made me hyper-aware of everything, where he was in the house, how his voice sounded when he laughed at something Sinclair said, the way he'd ask, "How was your session?" without requiring details. Catherine became something like a friend. She taught Sinclair to bake cookies, showed me where the laundry room was when I insisted on doing our own washing because I couldn't just exist without purpose, and never once made me feel like a charity case. Mr. Romano's different with you here, she said one afternoon while we folded Sinclair's new clothes. Because somehow my daughter had acquired an entire wardrobe from shopping trips I never authorized, but couldn't bring myself to refuse. Different how? Lighter. Catherine smoothed a small t-shirt with practiced hands. He's been so closed off since I've known him. Work, work, work. Women who wanted his wallet, not his heart. He stopped believing anyone could see him as more than a bank account. She glanced at me. But you look at him like he's just a man. I think he forgot what that felt like. I didn't know what to do with that information, so I filed it away with all the other confusing feelings I was developing about my boss-turned-protector. Week 3, Mikhail knocked on my bedroom door after Sinclair had gone to sleep. Can we talk? My heart jumped. This was it, the conversation where he explained I'd overstayed my welcome, or that the lawyers had done all they could, or that Craig had found some loophole and I needed to disappear again. I followed him to his office, all dark wood and leather chairs and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves that made my fingers itch to explore. He gestured to a chair, but didn't sit behind his massive desk. Instead, he sat in the chair next to mine, and I realized he always did that. Always put himself on my level instead of above it. Your lawyers called, I said before he could start. They found something. They did. Craig violated the restraining order 17 times in the past 2 years. We have documentation, security footage, witness statements. His jaw tightened. He's going to be arrested, Elsa, formally charged, and this time, the charges will stick. Relief hit so hard I couldn't breathe. When? Soon. But that's not what I want to talk about. He pulled something from his pocket, a tablet, and handed it to me. I want to talk about this. On the screen was my online student portal, my courses, my grades, straight A's despite everything, my degree progress, 60% complete toward a business administration degree. I felt exposed, violated. How did you? Your laptop, from the apartment. Catherine charged it, and it opened to this screen. He held up a hand before I could explode. I didn't snoop intentionally, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So now you know I'm pathetic. A 28-year-old maid taking baby steps toward a degree that won't even matter because I'll never… Elsa. He cut through my spiral. Do you know what I see when I look at this? Someone pretending she's more than she is? I see someone working 3 jobs, raising a child alone, surviving abuse, and still finding time to educate herself because she refuses to accept that her circumstances define her future. His voice carried weight I'd never heard before. I see someone who reminds me why I built this company in the first place, to create opportunities for people with drive who've been denied chances. I couldn't look at him, couldn't handle the way he saw potential where I only saw survival. I have a proposition, he continued. And before you say no out of pride or fear or whatever instinct tells you this is charity, hear me out. I'm listening. You finish your degree. I'll cover tuition, books, whatever you need. In exchange, you work for me. My head snapped up. I already work for you. Not as my maid. He leaned forward. As my executive personal assistant. The words didn't make sense. What? You've been here 3 weeks. In that time, you've reorganized my schedule more efficiently than my last 3 assistants combined, caught 2 billing errors in household accounts that saved me thousands, and somehow convinced my most difficult client to agree to a meeting by writing an email so perfectly worded that even I was impressed. I was just trying to help. Exactly. You see problems and fix them. You anticipate needs. You communicate clearly and think strategically. He pulled up something else on the tablet, a job description, salary range that made my vision blur. This is the position. It comes with benefits, retirement matching, housing stipend. Stop. I stood up, needed to pace, needed air. Why are you doing this? This isn't about me being qualified. This is about you feeling sorry for the broken woman you rescued. Mikhail stood too, but didn't approach. You want the truth? Please. I'm doing this because I've spent 12 years building an empire, and in that time I've hired hundreds of people. You know what most of them have in common? They're competent, educated, connected, but they don't give a damn about the work beyond the paycheck. They're not hungry for something more. He paused. You are. I saw it in your apartment. Spreadsheets planning escape routes, printed course materials highlighted and annotated, notebooks full of business concepts you were teaching yourself. You have the drive. I have the resources. This isn't charity. It's investment. In me? My voice came out small. In you. I thought about the alternative. Finding another apartment, another job, another way to scrape by while looking over my shoulder. Going back to being invisible, small, safe in my insignificance. Or I could take this chance. This impossible, terrifying chance to become something more. What about Sinclair? I asked quietly. What about her? I can't afford childcare on top of rent, and if I'm working full-time, the estate has 12 bedrooms, he said simply. You'll live here. Sinclair will have stability, safety, a yard to play in, access to better schools. Catherine's already mentioned she'd love to help with pickup and homework when you're busy. You've thought of everything. I've tried. I crossed my arms, needing the barrier. And what do you get out of this? Really? Mikhail was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something raw. I get to watch someone I respect achieve what they're capable of. I get an assistant who'll actually challenge me instead of just agreeing with everything I say. And maybe, he trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe I get to feel like my money is actually doing something that matters. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in my chest. This man who had everything but somehow felt like he had nothing that mattered. I need conditions, I said. Name them. I pay rent, even if it's small. I need to contribute. Agreed. Sinclair and I keep our own space. Separate wing, separate lives outside of work hours. Of course. And if this doesn't work out, if I'm terrible at this job or if Craig somehow finds us, or if this arrangement gets complicated, I walk away with no guilt trips, no obligations, no strings. Mikhail extended his hand. Deal. I stared at his hand like it was a grenade. Taking it meant accepting help, meant believing I deserved this, meant trusting that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a trap. Sinclair's voice echoed in my head. He's nice, Mommy. I like him. And Dr. Herrick's voice. What does survival look like when the immediate threat is gone? Maybe it looked like this. A hand extended. A choice offered. A future that wasn't just about escaping the past, but actually building something. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, certain. And for the first time in 2 years, I let myself feel something dangerous, hope. 6 months changed everything. The bruises faded completely by week 5. The nightmares took longer, still woke up gasping sometimes, checking locks that didn't need checking, but Dr. Herrick said that was normal. Trauma doesn't heal on a schedule, she told me. It heals when your body finally believes the danger is gone. My body was starting to believe it. Craig was arrested in week 4. Formal charges, violating restraining orders, stalking, assault, and battery. Mikhail's lawyers built a case so airtight, even Craig's expensive legal team couldn't wiggle through the cracks. Court date set for 8 months out. Bail denied after the prosecutor argued he was a flight risk and a danger to me and Sinclair. He was in jail, actually in jail, where he couldn't reach us, couldn't find us, couldn't hurt us. I cried for 3 days straight when I got the news. Relief mixed with disbelief mixed with this bone-deep exhaustion that comes from finally being allowed to stop running. But the strangest thing? The thing that kept me up at night for different reasons? I was good at this job. Really good. Mikael hadn't lied about what he needed. Executive personal assistant sounded fancy, but mostly it meant I ran his life so he could run his empire. Schedule management, correspondence, household operations, coordinating with department heads, reviewing contracts before they hit his desk, translating his rapid-fire thoughts into coherent action items. Turned out, 6 years of surviving Craig had taught me to anticipate needs, read moods, diffuse tensions, and organize chaos. Skills I'd learned to avoid beatings now helped me navigate boardrooms. "You're frighteningly efficient," Mikael said one afternoon, reviewing a meeting agenda I'd restructured. "My last assistant took 3 years to learn my communication style. You had it down in 3 weeks." "Your last assistant probably wasn't scared you'd fire her if she messed up," I replied without thinking, then froze because that sounded too honest, too raw. But Mikael just looked at me with those dark eyes that saw too much. "I'd never fire you for making mistakes, Elsa. I might fire you for not making any. Means you're not taking enough risks." That became the pattern. Him pushing me to think bigger, take up more space, trust my instincts. Me resisting, apologizing, shrinking back. Him refusing to let me disappear. "Stop saying sorry," he told me after I apologized for the 4th time in one meeting. "You're not sorry. You're managing a trauma response. If you actually mess up, you'll know because I'll tell you directly. Everything else? Stop apologizing for existing." It was the first time someone had named it. Named what I was doing and why. I cried in the bathroom for 10 minutes after that meeting, then fixed my makeup and went back to work. By month 3, I wasn't just managing his schedule. I was sitting in on acquisition meetings, offering input on deals, catching details that others missed. The executives who'd initially dismissed me as Romano's rescued project started actually listening when I spoke. "She's got instincts," I overheard one VP tell another. "Caught that liability issue in the Meridian contract before legal did. Saved us 6 figures easy." I was becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone confident, competent, valuable beyond what I could clean or cook or endure. My online classes continued. Mikael gave me dedicated study time during work hours, said education was part of the job. I'd finish my degree in another year at this pace. "Then what?" he asked one evening. We were in his office, me reviewing quarterly reports, him pretending to read emails but mostly watching me work. He did that sometimes. I pretended not to notice. "Then what? What? After you finish your degree, what do you want to do?" I set down my tablet. "Keep doing this, I guess? Unless you're planning to fire me once I'm educated enough to leave." "Elsa," his voice carried exasperation, "I'm asking about your dreams, not your contingency plans." Dreams. What a luxury. What a ridiculous, impossible luxury. "I don't know," I admitted. I spent so long just trying to survive that I never let myself want anything bigger. "Well, start wanting." He leaned back in his chair. "You're brilliant. Strategic. You see connections others miss. You could run your own division, start your own company, do literally anything. So what do you want?" The question sat in my chest like a weight. What did I want? I wanted Sinclair to grow up believing she could be anything. Wanted to stop flinching when doors opened unexpectedly. Wanted to look in mirrors without seeing damaged goods. Wanted to wake up one morning and not have my first thought be, "Where's Craig?" But beneath all that, "I want to help people like me," I said quietly. "Women who are trapped, who think they don't have options. I want to show them that survival isn't the end goal, it's just the beginning." Mikael's expression shifted into something I couldn't quite name. Then we'll make that happen. You can't just, I can. And I will. Put together a proposal. What would a program look like? Job training, housing assistance, legal support, business mentorship? You tell me what you need, and we'll build it. I stared at him. Why do you do this? Do what? Believe in me more than I believe in myself. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, because someone has to. And I'm betting that once you start believing it too, you'll be unstoppable. Sinclair bloomed like she'd been planted in better soil. New school, new friends, new confidence. She stopped asking if we were going back to the apartment. Stopped checking over her shoulder when we walked to the car. Started talking about the future in ways that broke my heart. When I grow up, I want to live in a house like this, with a garden, and a library, and maybe a puppy. Maybe a puppy, I'd echoed, because hope felt fragile but real. She'd also developed an intense attachment to Mikhail. Mr. Romano, look what I made in art class. Mr. Romano, can you help me with my math homework? Mr. Romano, do you think butterflies dream when they sleep? He never brushed her off. Never acted like her questions were burdens. He'd sit with her at the kitchen table, patient as she worked through multiplication tables, genuinely engaged when she explained elaborate stories about her drawings. I watched them together and felt something dangerous growing in my chest. Catherine noticed. You're falling for him. We were in the kitchen, prepping dinner. Sinclair was in the library with Mikhail, reading a book about space exploration because she'd decided she might want to be an astronaut. We have a professional relationship. Honey, Catherine set down her knife. I've worked in this house for 12 years. I've seen him with dozens of women, models, executives, socialites. You know what he looked like with all of them? Bored. Polite, but bored. Your point? You know what he looks like with you? She smiled. Awake. It doesn't matter what he looks like. I work for him. I live in his house. There's a power imbalance. There was a power imbalance. Past tense. You're not some helpless woman anymore, Elsa. You're his executive PA. You challenge him in meetings. You make decisions about his business. You're equals now, whether you want to admit it or not. But I'm still broken, still dealing with trauma, still having nightmares about my ex. What kind of foundation is that for? I couldn't even say it. For anything. Love doesn't wait for perfect timing. Catherine went back to chopping vegetables. It just shows up and asks if you're brave enough to try. The shift happened in month 5. Small things at first. His hand lingering on mine when passing documents. The way he'd lean in close to look at something on my screen. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, cedar, and something crisp. How he'd catch me watching Sinclair and smile like we were sharing a secret. Then bigger things. Him asking my opinion not just on business matters, but personal ones. What I thought about a charity gala invitation. Whether I preferred Italian or Japanese for dinner. If I'd read a specific book. And what I thought about the protagonist's choices. Like my thoughts mattered. Like I mattered beyond my function. One evening, working late in his office, I looked up from my laptop and caught him staring. What? I touched my face self-consciously. Do I have something? No. He didn't look away. I was just thinking. About? About how different my life is now. Better. Fuller. Because you're in it. The air in the room shifted. Charged. Dangerous. Mikhail. I never called him by his first name. It felt too intimate. Too familiar. But it slipped out naturally, and I couldn't take it back. I know, he said quietly. I know all the reasons this is complicated. The power dynamic, your trauma. The fact that you work for me and live in my house and technically I'm the one who saved you from a terrible situation. Then why Because none of that changes what I feel when you walk into a room. None of that changes the fact that you're the first person in a decade who looks at me like I'm just a man, not a checkbook. None of that changes. A crash from the library, followed by Sinclair's voice. I'm okay. The books attacked me, but I won. The moment shattered. We both laughed, that tension deflating into something manageable again. We should. I gestured toward the library. Yeah. But as I stood to leave, he caught my wrist, gentle, asking permission without words. Elsa, I'm not going to push this. I'm not going to make you uncomfortable in your own home, but I need you to know, when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'm here. Not as your boss, not as your protector, just as someone who what? My voice came out whisper soft. Who sees you, all of you, the brilliant strategist, the fierce mother, the woman who survived hell and decided to build heaven anyway. I see you, Elsa, and I really like what I see. I should have pulled away, should have cited all the reasons Catherine had listed and then some, should have protected myself from the possibility of more heartbreak. Instead, I squeezed his hand. Once. Quick. Then pulled away and walked toward the library before I could do something stupid like kiss him. But I heard Catherine's voice in my head. Love doesn't wait for perfect timing. And Dr. Herrick's. What does healing look like when the danger is gone? Maybe it looked like this. A man who saw my worth. A job that valued my mind. A daughter who laughed freely. And a version of myself I was just starting to recognize. Stronger, braver, worthy of good things. Maybe it looked like 3 hearts slowly becoming one family, even if we were all too scared to name it yet. Sinclair did that for us. 1 month later, at Sunday breakfast with pancakes and fresh berries, she looked between us with those wise 6-year-old eyes and asked the question that changed everything. When are you two getting married? The entire table went silent. Catherine froze mid-pour with the orange juice. Mikhail's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. I choked on my coffee. What? I managed. You and Mr. Romano. She said it matter-of-factly, like she'd just commented on the weather. When are you getting married? You look at each other like people in movies do before they kiss, and I love you both, and you look good working together. So when's the wedding? Out of the mouths of babes, Mikhail recovered first. Sinclair, sweetheart, your mom and I, we work together. We're colleagues. You're lying, she pointed her fork at him. Grown-ups think kids are dumb, but we see things. You smile different when mommy's in the room, and mommy stops being sad-scared when you're around. That's love. Dr. Ayla says love is when people make each other better. I couldn't look at Mikhail, couldn't breathe, couldn't process that my 6-year-old daughter had just called us out in front of God and Catherine and the Monday morning sun. Baby, it's more complicated than… Why? Sinclair interrupted. Why is it complicated? The bad man's gone. You're happy here. Mr. Romano's happy when we're here. What's complicated about people who make each other happy being together? She was right. God help me, my 6-year-old daughter was absolutely right. I finally looked at Mikhail, found him already looking at me with an expression that said everything he'd been too careful to say out loud. Out of the mouths of babes, Catherine muttered, grinning into her coffee cup. Sinclair, I started, but Mikhail spoke over me. She's not wrong. My heart stopped. What? He set down his fork, gave Sinclair his full attention. You're right. I do smile different when your mom's around, and I am happy when you're both here, and yes, I think your mom is pretty amazing. Then why aren't you married? Sinclair pressed, relentless. Because love is complicated, sweetheart. Your mom and I, we're still figuring things out, making sure we're doing this right, making sure everyone feels safe and happy and ready. But you do love her? Sinclair's eyes lit up with the triumph of being proven right. Mikhail looked at me then, really looked at me, and said the words that split my world open. Yeah, I do. The kitchen went absolutely silent. Then Sinclair pumped her fist in the air. I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! Dr. Ayla's gonna be so excited I was right about the love thing. And just like that, everything I'd been dancing around for 6 months, every careful boundary, every professional distance, every reason I'd given myself not to feel what I felt, crumbled under the weight of 3 words and my daughter's victory dance. Mikhail hadn't looked away. Was still looking at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. I should have said something, should have addressed it like the adult I was supposed to be. Instead, I stood up, kissed Sinclair's head, and practically ran from the kitchen, leaving my half-eaten breakfast and my composed executive persona and my ability to pretend everything was fine behind. I made it to my room, closed the door, and stood there with my heart trying to escape my chest. He loved me. Mikhail Romano loved me. And the terrifying part? I loved him back. Had been loving him back for months, maybe since the moment he'd crouched in front of my chair and promised Craig would never touch me again. A soft knock. Elsa? His voice gentle through the door. Go away. Can't do that. Mikhail. I need a minute. Take all the minutes you need. A pause. But I'm not going to pretend I didn't mean it. I do love you, and I'll wait however long it takes for you to decide if you feel the same way. Days, months, years, doesn't matter. You're worth the wait. I opened the door, stood there looking at this impossible man who'd given me safety, opportunity, respect, space to heal, and now he was offering me his heart like it was the most natural thing in the world. I'm terrified, I whispered. I know. I don't know how to do this, how to be someone's partner without being someone's victim. We'll figure it out together. I have a daughter, baggage, an ex-boyfriend facing trial, nightmares, trust issues. I'm a mess, Mikhail. You're not a mess. He stepped closer. You're in process. And I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for real. And this, he gestured between us. This is the most real thing I've felt in my entire life. What if I'm not ready? Then we wait. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. I believed him. That was the miracle. After Craig, after years of lies and manipulation and promises that shattered, I actually believed Mikhail Romano meant every word. I think I love you too, I said, the words barely audible. I think I've been loving you and just didn't know what it felt like when it wasn't wrapped in fear. His smile could have lit the whole estate. Yeah? Yeah. But we need to go slow. Really slow. Sinclair's declaration aside, we need to make sure this is real and right and not just trauma bonding or rescue fantasy or rebound relationship, he finished. I know, I've thought about all of it too. Which is why we do this at whatever pace you need. No pressure, no expectations, just us, figuring it out. Okay. Okay? Okay. I took his hand. That same hand I'd shaken 6 months ago in a business deal. This time it felt different. Felt like promise. Let's figure it out. We stood there in my doorway, holding hands like teenagers, while Sinclair's voice floated up from the kitchen singing wedding bells at the top of her lungs. Catherine was laughing. And for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't scared of what came next. Because whatever it was, I wouldn't be facing it alone. The acquisition report landed on my desk at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and with it, my entire world tilted sideways. Romano Enterprises completes full acquisition of Bergman Holdings, read the headline in the business section. Standard stuff. Mikhail had been negotiating the deal for 8 months, finally closed it last week. Bergman Holdings was a mid-sized firm specializing in commercial real estate development, profitable but poorly managed, ripe for restructuring. I was reviewing the transition documents, creating integration timelines, coordinating with HR about personnel changes. Executive PA duties, nothing unusual, until I got to the organizational chart. Department managers, division heads, regional supervisors, names and titles and reporting structures laid out in neat boxes. And there, in the Northwest Regional Operations Division, Manager of Property Development, Craig Burgos. The document slipped from my hands. No, 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 no. My vision tunneled. The office walls pressed in. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stare at that name on the page like it was a death sentence written in corporate letterhead. Elsa? Mikhail's voice concerned. He'd been on a call in the corner but must have seen me go pale. What's wrong? I pointed at the chart. Couldn't speak. Just pointed. He crossed the room in 3 strides, looked at where my fingers shook against the paper. Watched his entire body go rigid. Fuck! The word was barely whispered, but carried nuclear weight. Fuck! He works for me now. He works for you. I repeated it like saying it enough times would make it make sense. Craig works for you. He's in your company. He'll see my name on communications. He'll know I'm here. Elsa, look at me. Mikhail knelt in front of my chair, hands hovering near mine but not touching, asking permission. Look at me. I forced my eyes to his face. He doesn't know yet. The acquisition just closed. Personnel files haven't been fully integrated. And even when they are, your name shows up as E. McLemore, Executive Operations. No photo, no details. He won't know. You don't understand how he thinks. My voice shook. He's obsessed. He looks for me everywhere. The second he sees Romano Enterprises communications, he'll start digging. He'll find out I'm here. And he's going to do nothing. Mikhail's voice went cold, controlled. Because he's currently awaiting trial. Out on bail with strict conditions, and any contact with you violates those conditions and puts him back in jail immediately. Bail? What do you mean, bail? Ice flooded my veins. I thought, you said bail was denied. Mikhail's jaw clenched. It was. His lawyers appealed. Judge granted it last week with conditions. Ankle monitor, no contact orders, mandatory check-ins. My legal team tried to fight it, but he's out. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward. He's been out for a week and you didn't tell me? I was going to tell you. I was waiting for the right time. The right time? The right time was the second it happened. My voice cracked, years of controlled calm shattering. He's out there, Mikhail, walking around, free. And now you're telling me he works for you? That he's going to see my name and know exactly where I am? We'll handle this. How? How do we handle this? I was spiraling, could feel it happening, couldn't stop it. You can't fire him for no reason. He'll sue, he'll make noise, he'll know it's about me. And if you keep him, he's going to be in meetings, on calls, sending emails, and eventually he'll put it together that his ex-girlfriend is now working for the billionaire who bought his company. Then I'll fire him with reason. Mikhail stood, pulled out his phone. I'm calling legal. We're going to audit his department top to bottom. Every expense report, every client interaction, every email. We'll find cause. And how long does that take? Days? Weeks? Meanwhile, he's out there. Probably already suspicious because you've been paying for lawyers way too expensive for a simple assault case. Mikhail stopped mid-dial. What do you mean? Craig's not stupid. He's evil, but he's not stupid. The lawyers you hired to prosecute him? They cost more than his annual salary. He's going to wonder why a billionaire's legal team is so invested in a case involving his broke ex-girlfriend. And when he starts wondering, he starts investigating. And when he starts investigating, he figures out you work for me. He figures out I work for you. Silence fell between us, heavy with implications neither of us wanted to voice. There's another option, Mikhail said slowly. What? I confront him, directly. Make it clear that if he comes near you, if he so much as thinks about you, he'll wish he'd stayed in jail. No. The word came out sharp. Absolutely not. You confronting him confirms everything. Confirms I'm important to you. Confirms you're protecting me. That makes me a target, not just for him, but for anything he wants to use against you. Business rivals, tabloids, anyone who wants leverage. I don't give a damn about leverage. Well, I do. I pressed my hands against the desk, needing something solid. I finally have something good, Mikhail. A job I'm good at. A safe place for Sinclair. A future that doesn't involve hiding. I can't lose this because Craig decides to make me his weapon against you. You won't lose anything. I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. The truth sat between us like a third person. He couldn't promise it. Money and power could do a lot. But Craig was motivated by something darker than logic. Obsession, possession, the need to control what he'd lost. My phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Herrick. Session tomorrow at 2 p.m. Still work? We should discuss the bail situation. I showed Mikhail the screen. You told my therapist before you told me. He had the decency to look ashamed. I told her so she'd be prepared if you spiraled. I was going to tell you yesterday, but Sinclair had that school presentation, and you were so happy and I didn't want to ruin. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't make decisions about what I can handle. Don't protect me from information I need. That's what Craig did. That's what abusers do. They control information to control the person. I'm not Craig. Then stop acting like him. The words detonated in the space between us. Mikhail stepped back like I'd slapped him. And maybe I had, verbally. Maybe I'd just equated the man who'd saved my life with the man who'd tried to destroy it. I'm sorry, I said immediately. That wasn't fair. You're nothing like him. But Mikhail, you have to understand. I can't go back to being someone who doesn't know what's happening in her own life. I can't be protected into ignorance. I need to know everything, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. He nodded slowly. You're right. I should have told you immediately. I was wrong. Thank you. Another buzzing, this time his phone. He glanced at it, and something dark crossed his face. It's personnel. They're requesting approval for Craig Burgos's new employee onboarding package. The universe had a sick sense of timing. Don't approve it yet, I said. Brain shifting into strategy mode because that's what I did now. I strategized instead of panicked. Tell them you want a full background review on all Bergman Holdings management before finalizing anyone's integration. Standard due diligence. That buys us time. Time for what? Time to audit his department properly. Time to see if he slips up on bail conditions. Time to prepare for when he figures it out. Because he will figure it out, Mikhail. It's not if, it's when. Then we make sure that when he does, we're ready. I pulled up my laptop, opened a new document. Okay, let's game this out. Worst case scenario, he figures out I work here. What does he do? Mikhail sat across from me, shifted into business mode. He contacts you directly. Violation of bail, we have him arrested. Unless he's smart about it, uses intermediaries. Sends messages through third parties. Technically not direct contact. He shows up at the estate. We have security, cameras. He's trespassing and violating stay-away orders. Unless he stays off property but close enough to be seen, parks across the street, legal but terrifying. He makes noise in the company, complains about hostile work environment, files grievances, makes himself look like the victim. while simultaneously investigating me, finding out where Sinclair goes to school, learning our routines, building a case that I'm the one who won't let go, not him. We went back and forth, mapping every possible move Craig could make, every countermove we had, every gap in our defenses. 2 hours later, we had a plan. Not a perfect plan, but a plan. Step 1. Comprehensive audit of Craig's department, prioritizing any client complaints or ethical violations. Step 2. Increased security protocols at the estate and Sinclair's school, including daily check-ins. Step 3. Legal team prepares restraining order modifications with specific provisions about workplace proximity. Step 4. I document everything, every day, every movement, every feeling of being watched. Build our own case. Step 5. We wait and watch and prepare for war. There's something else we need to consider, Mikhail said quietly. What? Us. What we talked about yesterday. What Sinclair said. My heart sank. You want to pause. I want to protect you from any accusation that this is about a relationship. If Craig finds out if he knows that he'll say you're biased, that the prosecution is personal, that the whole case is just a jealous boyfriend's revenge. Exactly. It undermines everything. I wanted to argue, wanted to say that Craig didn't get to control our lives anymore, didn't get to dictate what we felt or when we felt it. But the strategist in me knew Mikhail was right. So we're colleagues, I said flatly. Professionally cordial. Nothing more. For now. Until the trial. Until he's convicted and locked away for real. Mikhail reached across the desk, and this time he did take my hand. This doesn't change what I feel, Elsa. It just changes the timeline. Timeline, I laughed bitterly. My whole life is timelines. When I'll be safe, when I'll be free, when I'll be allowed to be happy. I'm so tired of waiting for permission to live. I know. Do you? I pulled my hand back. Because you can walk away from this. Go back to your life without the complication of an abused single mother and her psycho ex-boyfriend. Find someone without baggage. Someone who doesn't come with court dates and security threats, and a daughter who asks when the wedding is. Is that what you think I want? His voice went quiet, dangerous. You think I want easy? Don't most people? Most people haven't met you. He stood, walked around the desk until he was standing in front of me. I don't want easy. I want real. I want messy and complicated and challenging. I want someone who sees through my bullshit, who calls me out when I'm wrong, who fights beside me instead of behind me. I want you, Elsa. All of you. The trauma and the strength and the brilliant mind and the fierce heart and yes, even the psycho ex-boyfriend we're going to destroy in court. Tears burned behind my eyes. Even if it costs you? Especially then, because that's when it proves it matters. A knock interrupted us. Catherine's voice through the door. Sorry to interrupt, but Sinclair's school called. She needs to be picked up early. Something about a stomach ache. Duty called. Motherhood always took precedence. I'll get her, I said, grabbing my bag. I'll come with you. Mikhail, you have the board meeting at 3. I'll call them from the car. Sinclair takes priority. And just like that, we were back to being what we'd been for 6 months, a team. Co-parents who weren't actually co-parents but kind of were. People who cared about each other in ways that didn't have easy names. In the car, Mikhail made calls while I texted Sinclair's teacher. Standard procedure. Nothing alarming, but I couldn't shake the anxiety crawling up my spine. What if he knows where she goes to school? I asked quietly. He doesn't. But what if... Elsa, he doesn't. Private enrollment records. No public databases. Your name isn't on any school documentation. It's all under mine as guardian sponsor. He'd have to physically follow us to find out, and we have security watching for exactly that. You say that like security has never failed. Security has never failed when I'm paying for it. Not arrogance. Fact. Trust me. Please. I wanted to. God, I wanted to trust that money and power could actually keep us safe this time. We pulled up to Sinclair's school. Small, exclusive, expensive. She came out looking pale but trying to smile when she saw us both. Both of you came? She climbed into the back seat, immediately curling into herself. I'm okay, just felt yucky. Yucky how? I touched her forehead. No fever. Just scared yucky, like when bad things are about to happen. My blood went cold. Baby, did something happen at school? No. Maybe. I don't know. She hugged her teddy bear, the one Mikhail had given her 18 months ago that she'd never stopped carrying. There was a man, outside, at recess, just standing there by the fence, watching. Mikhail and I locked eyes. What did he look like, sweetheart? Mikhail kept his voice calm, gentle. I don't know, far away. But he was just looking at me, and it felt wrong. Did you tell a teacher? Yeah. They went outside, but he was gone. They said maybe it was just a parent waiting, but Mommy... She looked at me with eyes too wise for 6 years old. It felt like when Daddy used to watch us, that same bad feeling. I climbed into the back seat with her, pulled her close. You did exactly right, baby. You told a teacher. You told us. You were so brave. But over her head, I met Mikhail's eyes in the rearview mirror. He knows. The thought passed between us without words. Craig had found us, was watching, waiting for his moment. You've made it this far because you sense what's coming. Stay until the end, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. And as Mikhail pulled away from the school, already making calls to increase security, already strategizing our next move, I held my daughter close and made a promise. Craig Burgos wanted to play power games? Fine, but he was about to learn that I wasn't the same terrified woman he'd beaten 2 years ago. I had resources now, protection, a future worth fighting for. And most importantly, I had a man who loved me standing beside me, a daughter who deserved safety, and nothing, not bail conditions or workplace complications or fear, was going to make me run anymore. This time, I was standing my ground. This time, he'd picked the wrong woman to terrorize. This time, power was about to recognize power. And Craig was on the losing side. The man at the fence was confirmed 2 days later. Security footage from the school's external cameras caught him. Dark jacket, baseball cap pulled low, standing just beyond property lines where he couldn't be legally removed. 43 minutes. He'd stood there for 43 minutes during Sinclair's recess, watching. The footage was grainy, but Mikhail's security team enhanced it. Ran facial recognition. Craig Burgos. Out on bail. Technically not violating his restraining order because he hadn't approached us, hadn't made contact, had stayed the legally required 500 feet away. But he'd found her school, had stood there watching my baby play, letting her feel his presence like a promise. I can reach you anywhere. He's escalating, said the security consultant Mikhail hired, a former FBI agent named Taylor Shannon who looked like he'd seen every kind of predator and knew exactly how they hunted. This is classic control behavior. He can't contact you directly, so he's demonstrating power through proximity, making you feel watched, making you afraid. It's working, I said flatly. We were in Mikhail's office, me, Mikhail, Taylor, and Mikhail's lead attorney, a sharp woman named Stephanie Quinones, who'd built her career destroying men like Craig in court. Good, Stephanie said. And when I stared at her, she continued, let him escalate. Every time he pushes boundaries, he gives us ammunition. The school footage? That's documented stalking. We're filing for an emergency protective order modification, increasing the distance, adding the school as a specific prohibited location, requesting GPS monitoring on top of his ankle monitor. And if he violates that, I asked, then he goes back to jail. No bail this time. You said that before. Bail was denied, then it wasn't. What stops the same thing from happening again? Stephanie leaned forward. What stops it is building an airtight pattern of escalating behavior that proves he's a danger. One violation could be explained away. 2 is harder. 3 is impossible. So we document everything. Every time he tests the boundaries, we document. And we wait for him to slip up badly enough that no judge in their right mind lets him walk. So my daughter's fear is just evidence collection? Your daughter's fear is valid, and we're taking it seriously, Mikhail cut in, which is why we've tripled security. Sinclair doesn't go anywhere without protection, neither do you. I don't want to live like I'm in witness protection. Better than living like you're in danger. His tone left no room for argument. Taylor pulled up something on his tablet. There's something else you need to know. We've been monitoring Burgos's communications, legally, through data his parole officer has access to. He's been making inquiries. What kind of inquiries? About Romano Enterprises, about recent acquisitions, about executive personnel. Taylor met my eyes. He doesn't know for sure yet, but he's looking. My stomach dropped. How long until he figures it out? Days. Maybe a week if we're lucky. The Bergman Holdings integration is moving forward. He'll see internal communications soon. Your name will come up. Then we move first, Mikhail said. Stephanie, what's the status on the audit? Found something, she smiled, sharp and predatory. Expense report irregularities going back 18 months. He's been padding client entertainment expenses, routing personal charges through corporate cards. Nothing massive, but consistent. It's embezzlement. How much? Roughly $37,000 over 18 months. That's criminal, I said. Borderline. Could be explained as sloppy accounting, but combined with 3 formal complaints from female subordinates about inappropriate comments and 2 client concerns about aggressive sales tactics? Stephanie spread her hands. We have cause for immediate termination. Do it, Mikhail said. Wait. I held up a hand. If you fire him now, right after the acquisition, right after he's been watching Sinclair's school, he'll know it's connected. He'll know I'm involved. So? Mikhail looked at me like the answer was obvious. Let him know. Let him understand that the resources protecting you are bigger than him. Or let him think he's winning. The idea formed as I spoke. What if we don't fire him yet? What if we transfer him instead? Everyone turned to me. Transfer him where? Stephanie asked. Somewhere far. Alaska. International offices? Doesn't matter. Make it look like a promotion. Senior regional manager, special projects, whatever title sounds important but removes him from local operations. He takes it because refusing makes him look suspicious. Gets him away from us geographically while we build the criminal case. Taylor nodded slowly. It's smart. Puts distance between him and his targets while making him feel like he's succeeding in the company. But it delays justice, Mikhail said. Keeps him free longer. Keeps him busy longer, I countered. Right now, he has time to obsess over finding me. Give him a demanding new role across the country? He'll be focused on proving himself, not stalking. Meanwhile, we're building the evidence, preparing for trial, making sure that when we do move, it's permanent. Stephanie considered it. It could work. We'd need to sell it convincingly, make the offer attractive enough that refusal seems irrational, and we'd need to monitor his communications to ensure he's actually relocating and not just pretending to go. I can arrange that, Taylor said. Mikhail looked at me with something like awe. You're suggesting we promote your abuser to get him out of your life. I'm suggesting we strategically position a company asset while simultaneously removing a threat. It's just business. I tried to sound confident, but my hands shook. Right? It's brilliant. He turned to Stephanie. Make it happen. Create a position that sounds prestigious, but removes him from any real power. Alaska operations. Something that requires immediate relocation. On it. They continued discussing logistics, salary packages, relocation bonuses, how to make the offer while the audit was still pending. I half listened, brains spinning through scenarios. What if he didn't take it? What if he saw through the strategy? What if this just made him angrier? Mikhail's hand covered mine on the armrest. Quick, reassuring. Then gone before anyone else noticed. We were doing this, moving chess pieces, playing games with a man who'd spent years playing games with my life. The difference was, this time I had actual power behind me. The offer went out 3 days later. Senior Regional Manager, Alaska Territory Development. 70% salary increase. Full relocation package. Housing stipend. Reporting directly to C-suite. On paper, it looked like recognition of talent. In reality, it was exile wrapped in promotion. Craig took 36 hours to respond. He accepted. He took it, Stephanie confirmed via phone. Signed paperwork this morning. Relocation date is in 2 weeks. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt suspicion. That's too easy. Not really, she said. The salary increase alone is significant. And you were right. His ego won't let him refuse what looks like advancement. Men like him need to believe they're succeeding. When does he leave? 2 weeks, like I said. We've arranged corporate housing in Anchorage. He starts the Monday after he arrives. 2 weeks. 14 days of him still being in the same city, knowing Sinclair's school location, having access to resources, making plans. 14 days felt like forever. Day 3 of the countdown. Craig sent flowers. They arrived at the estate, delivered to the main gate, addressed to E. McLemore, C.O. Romano Estate. White lilies. The same flowers he used to bring me after he'd hit me. His apology bouquet. No card. Didn't need one. The message was clear. I know where you are. Mikhail had them incinerated. Security reviewed gate footage, ran the delivery company's information, tracked the order, placed from a burner phone, untraceable, paid in cash, perfectly legal, perfectly threatening. He's playing with us, I said, watching the flowers turn to ash in the estate's incinerator. Showing off that he knows. Then we show him what happens when he plays games with people who have actual power, Mikhail replied, already dialing Stephanie. Move up the criminal referral. I want him charged with embezzlement before he leaves the state. That'll make him suspicious. I don't care. He sent flowers to my home, to an employee he has no legitimate reason to contact. That's harassment. We're done being strategic, we're going aggressive. I watched him pace, watched the transformation from the gentle man who'd held me after nightmares to the billionaire who'd built an empire through calculated ruthlessness. Both versions were real. Both versions were protecting me in their own ways. Wait, I said. If you charge him before he relocates, he won't go. He'll fight it here, dig in locally, have more access to us during the proceedings. Then what do you suggest? Let him think he's won. Let him go to Alaska, then file charges after he's settled. By the time he realizes what's happening, he's 2,000 miles away dealing with criminal proceedings in a state where he has no support system, no home field advantage. Stephanie's voice came through speakerphone. I hate that this makes sense. Elsa's scarier than I am, Mikhail said, but he was smiling. I had a good teacher, I replied, thinking of Craig. He taught me exactly how to terrorize someone while staying legally clean. I'm just using his playbook against him. Day 7. Sinclair stopped sleeping. Nightmares every night. She'd crawl into my bed at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., shaking and crying about the man at the fence or Daddy coming through the window, or some hybrid monster her child brain had created from old trauma and new fear. Dr. Ayla Parr, her therapist, increased sessions to 3 times a week. She's regressing, Dr. Parr told me gently. The sense of safety she'd built is compromised. Her nervous system is back in survival mode. How do I help her? You keep doing what you're doing, maintaining routine, offering comfort, not dismissing her fears. But Elsa, you need to take care of yourself too. Children absorb their parents' anxiety. If you're constantly terrified, she feels it. I am constantly terrified. I know. So let's work on managing that terror so it doesn't leak into every interaction with your daughter. Easier said than done. Every car that drove past the estate made my heart race. Every notification on my phone could be Craig. Every moment Sinclair was out of my sight felt like standing on a cliff edge. Mikhail found me one night, 3 a.m., sitting outside Sinclair's room after she'd finally fallen back asleep. Come here. He didn't wait for an answer, just pulled me down the hall to his office, closed the door, and wrapped his arms around me. I broke. Just completely shattered against his chest, crying in a way I hadn't let myself cry in front of anyone. I can't do this, I sobbed. I can't keep pretending I'm strong. I can't keep strategizing and planning and being rational. I just want him gone. I want him dead. I know. His hand stroked my hair. I know. And wanting that doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. I'm supposed to be better than this. Better than wanting violence. Says who? Who decided you have to be better than the man who beat you? Who made that rule? I pulled back enough to look at him. You don't understand. If I let myself feel how angry I am, how much I hate him, how much I want him to hurt the way he hurt me, I'll become just like him. No. Mikhail's voice was firm. You could never become like him. Because even at your angriest, even wanting him dead, you'd never actually hurt someone weaker than you. You'd never use your power to destroy someone's life. You'd never make a child afraid. That's the difference, Elsa. Not the feelings. Everyone has dark feelings. The difference is what you do with them. What do I do with them? You survive them. You let them move through you, and you trust that while you're surviving, I'm taking care of the practical shit. That's what partners do. Partners. He said it so casually, like we'd already crossed that line. Maybe we had. Maybe we'd crossed it months ago, and we're just now admitting it. 7 more days, I whispered. Then he's gone. 7 more days, then Alaska, then criminal charges, then trial, then prison, then freedom. And then what? Then us. He said it simply. Then we figure out what we are without him hanging over us. What if we fall apart without the common enemy? Then we fall apart. But I don't think we will. He kissed my forehead, gentle and chaste and full of promise. I think we're just getting started. Day 12. Craig went quiet. Too quiet. No more flowers. No more appearances near the school. No communication at all. I don't like it, Taylor said during our daily security briefing. Men like this don't just stop. They're either planning something or they've already done it. What could he have done? I asked. Depends on his resources. Could be hiring a PI to dig deeper into your connection to Romano. Could be coordinating with someone local to maintain surveillance while he's gone. Could be... My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I showed the screen to Taylor. He nodded. I answered, put it on speaker. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. Then, you think you're so smart, hiding behind his money. Craig's voice. After months of silence, His voice still made my skin crawl. "You're violating your bail conditions," I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. "This call is being recorded." "Good, let them hear. I'm just calling to congratulate my ex-girlfriend on her amazing new job. Executive personal assistant. Very impressive. You've come so far from scrubbing toilets. How did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? That I wouldn't recognize your writing style in company emails? That I wouldn't see the patterns?" He laughed, ugly and familiar. "You belong to me, Elsa. You've always belonged to me. And some rich asshole playing hero doesn't change that." Mikael moved to take the phone, but I held up a hand. This was mine. "I never belonged to you, Craig. I was trapped by you. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm standing, you're still defined by me, still running from me, still letting me control your life by existing." "You're right." The admission surprised us both. "You are still controlling my life, which is why I'm going to make sure you go to prison, why I'm documenting every violation, every threat, every moment of fear you've caused. And when you're sitting in a cell, when you've lost everything, your job, your freedom, your power, I want you to remember that I'm the one who put you there." "You stupid bitch." "Oh, and Craig, that promotion you're so excited about, the Alaska transfer, it was my idea. I'm the one sending you away, not your boss, not your company. Me. I'm the one with the power now." I hung up. The room was silent. Then Mikhail started laughing. Actually, laughing. "You just told your abusive ex that you manipulated him into taking a job transfer. That's... Jesus, Elsa, that's either brilliant or insane." "Both," I admitted. "Definitely both." Stephanie was already on her phone. "I'm filing emergency motions. That call violated no contact orders. He's going back to jail." "Will it stick this time?" I asked. "With recorded evidence of direct threats?" "Yes. No judge is letting him walk after this." Taylor looked impressed. "You baited him. You knew he'd react emotionally, knew he'd violate the order if you pushed the right buttons." "I learned from the best." I met Mikhail's eyes. "You said partners take care of the practical shit? Well, I just made our legal case airtight. Practical enough?" He crossed the room and kissed me. Not gentle, not chaste, but full of everything we'd been holding back for months. When he pulled away, I was breathless. "What was that for?" "For being the most terrifying woman I've ever met." He grinned. Craig never stood a chance. Craig was arrested 4 hours later. Bail revoked. Trial moved up. New charges added: stalking, harassment, violation of protective orders, embezzlement. The Alaska transfer was canceled. The job offer rescinded. And for the first time in 2 years, I breathed without feeling like hands were around my throat. Sinclair slept through the night. The flowers in the garden seemed brighter. And when Mikhail asked me to dinner, not as my boss, not as my protector, but as the man who'd stood beside me through hell, I said yes. Because Craig was wrong about one thing. I didn't belong to anyone, not anymore. I belonged to myself, to the future I was building, to the woman I was becoming. And if Mikhail Romano wanted to be part of that future, well, that was my choice too. And for the first time in my life, my choices were my own. The call came 6 weeks later on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing acquisition projections in Mikhail's office. "Guilty. On all counts." Stephanie's voice crackled through the speakerphone, professional but triumphant. "Stalking, harassment, assault and battery, violation of protective orders, and embezzlement." The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Sentencing is in 3 weeks, but given the severity and the pattern of behavior, we're looking at minimum 8 years, possibly 12. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process that the words I'd been waiting 2 years to hear had finally been said. "Elsa?" Stephanie's voice softened. "Did you hear me?" It's over. He's going to prison. I heard you. My voice came out strange, distant. Thank you. For everything. You did this. You and your documentation and your courage to testify. You put him away. After she hung up, I sat there staring at the phone like it might take the words back. Mikhail appeared in the doorway. I heard. Are you okay? I don't know. I looked up at him. I thought I'd feel different. Relieved or happy or vindicated. But I just feel empty. He crossed the room, pulled me up from the chair and into his arms. That's normal. You've been running for so long that standing still probably feels wrong. What do I do now? Now? He pulled back to look at me. Now you figure out who you are when you're not surviving. The sentencing hearing was 3 weeks later. I didn't have to attend, but I wanted to. Needed to. Needed to look Craig in the eye one last time and show him what he'd failed to destroy. Dr. Herrick came with me. So did Mikhail, though he sat in the back row at my request. This moment needed to be mine, not ours. Craig looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit. Thinner. Older. The man who'd once filled entire rooms with menace now looked like what he was. Pathetic. Broken. Finished. The judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood, walked to the podium, looked at Craig directly. 6 years ago, I met a man who said he loved me, who said he'd take care of me, who made me believe I was lucky to be chosen. My voice didn't shake. What I didn't know was that his version of love meant control, meant pain, meant teaching my daughter that her mother crying was normal, that violence was just what men did when women disappointed them. Craig's jaw clenched. Good. Let him feel uncomfortable for once. You took years from me. You took my confidence, my safety, my belief that I deserved good things. You made me small and scared and convinced I had no options but to accept whatever you chose to give me, whether that was affection or fists, kindness or cruelty. I paused, gathered myself. But here's what you didn't take. My will to survive, my determination to give my daughter better than what I had, my capacity to rebuild myself from the pieces you tried to break. I leaned forward. You failed, Craig. You tried to destroy me and you failed. And now you're going to spend the next decade in a cage while I spend it becoming everything you said I couldn't be. You're nothing without me, he started, half rising from his chair before his lawyer yanked him back down. No. I smiled, and it wasn't kind. I'm everything despite you. There's a difference. I sat down, felt Dr. Herrick squeeze my hand, felt Mikhail's presence behind me like a shield I no longer needed but appreciated anyway. The judge sentenced him to 12 years, maximum penalty, no possibility of parole for 8. When they led him away in handcuffs, Craig looked at me one last time. I didn't look away, didn't flinch, just watched him disappear through the courthouse doors and out of my life. Forever. Sinclair wanted to celebrate with ice cream. The bad man is gone for real? She asked. Chocolate smeared across her chin, sitting between me and Mikhail at a corner table in her favorite shop. For real, baby. For a very long time. Good. She returned to her sundae with the seriousness of a 6-year-old on a mission. Then casually, like she was commenting on the weather. So now can you two kiss? I choked on my coffee. Mikhail's spoon clattered against his bowl. What? I managed. You and Mr. Romano. She rolled her eyes like we were the slowest adults in the world. You've been doing that thing where you look at each other when you think I'm not watching. And you hold hands sometimes but then let go really fast like you're playing hot potato. And Miss Catherine says you're being ridiculous about the obvious. She said it in what I assumed was her impression of Catherine's voice. So now the bad man's gone and you don't have to pretend anymore. So can you just kiss already? Because it's getting weird. Out of the mouths of babes. Again. I looked at Mikhail helplessly. He looked back at me with barely contained laughter and something warmer, deeper. Your daughter makes a compelling argument, he said. She's 6. She's smarter than both of us combined. He turned to Sinclair. You really think your mom and I should kiss? Duh. She took another massive bite of ice cream. You love each other. People who love each other kiss. That's how it works. I learned it in stories. And you'd be okay with that? Me and your mom? Sinclair's expression went serious, old beyond her years. You make mommy smile the real way, not the pretend way she did when daddy was around. And you ask me stuff and listen to my answers like they matter, and you never yell or throw things or make us scared. She shrugged. That seems like good reasons. My heart cracked open. But, she continued, pointing her spoon at Mikhail, if you ever hurt my mommy, I'll be very disappointed in you, and that's worse than being mad. That is much worse, Mikhail agreed solemnly. I promise you, Sinclair, I will never hurt your mom, not ever. Good. She returned to her ice cream, crisis resolved in her mind. So are you going to kiss now or what? Not in the ice cream shop, I said quickly. Why not? Miss Catherine says public displays of affection are romantic. Miss Catherine needs to stop giving you relationship advice. She says you need all the help you can get because you're emotionally constipated. Mikhail lost it. Just completely lost it, laughing so hard he had to put his head down on the table. I'm firing Catherine, I muttered, but I was smiling. You can't fire her. She makes the good pancakes. Sinclair licked her spoon thoughtfully. Also, she's right. You are emotionally constipated. Dr. Ayla says that means you have feelings, but they're stuck. Does everyone in my life discuss my emotional state? I looked between them. Is this a conspiracy? We're all just waiting for you to admit what's obvious, Mikhail said, recovered from his laughter. Which is that you're in love with me and terrified to say it because of trauma and power dynamics and general anxiety about whether good things are allowed to happen to you. Wow. Thanks for the psychological profile. Am I wrong? I wanted to argue. Wanted to list all the very reasonable concerns I'd been holding on to for months: professional boundaries, trauma recovery timelines, the complexity of blending a family, whether my feelings were genuine or just transference from being rescued. But Craig was gone. The trial was over. The danger had passed. And Mikhail Romano was sitting across from me in an ice cream shop, looking at me like I was the answer to every question he'd never known to ask, while my daughter ate chocolate ice cream and gave romantic advice like a tiny relationship coach. You're not wrong, I admitted quietly. So say it. His voice was gentle but challenging. Say what we've been dancing around for 8 months. Here, now, in front of the 6-year-old relationship consultant? She started this. She deserves to witness the conclusion. Sinclair nodded enthusiastically. Say the thing, Mommy. Like in the movies. So I took a breath. Looked at this impossible man who'd saved my life and then insisted I save myself. Who'd given me a job, a home, safety, and then refused to let me hide behind any of it. Who'd loved my daughter like she was his own and never made it feel like obligation. I love you, I said. I'm terrified and complicated and still healing and probably emotionally constipated. Definitely emotionally constipated, Sinclair interjected. But I love you, Mikhail Romano. And I don't know what that looks like going forward, or how we navigate this, or if I'm even ready for everything that comes with saying it out loud. But there it is. I love you. He smiled. Not the careful, controlled smile he used in boardrooms. The real one, the one that made him look younger and lighter and absolutely devastating. I love you too, Elsa McLemore. Have since you reorganized my library and left that note about books deserving respect. Have loved you through every panic attack and breakthrough, every strategic plan and moment of doubt. I love you and your daughter and the future we're building and the fact that you make me want to be better while also accepting exactly who I am. Okay, now you can kiss, Sinclair announced, before the ice cream melts. That's important. So in a corner ice cream shop on a Tuesday afternoon, with chocolate-smeared witnesses and melting sundaes and absolutely zero romance novel ambiance, Mikhail Romano leaned across the table and kissed me. It wasn't our first kiss. We'd had a few stolen moments over the past months, careful and questioning and full of maybe someday. But this was different. This was choosing each other, publicly, permanently, without fear or conditions or escape clauses. This was, I love you, and yes, and let's build something real. When we pulled apart, Sinclair was grinning. Finally. That took forever. Sorry for the wait, Mikhail said solemnly. It's okay, but now you have to get married so I can be the flower girl. I already picked my dress. It's purple with sparkles. We're not. I looked at Mikhail helplessly. She's not wrong about the trajectory, he said, eyes dancing. Mikhail. What? I'm just saying, when you know, you know. He took my hand, laced our fingers together. But we can take our time getting there. We've got nothing but time now. Time. The thing I'd never had enough of. The thing I'd always been racing against or hiding from or desperately rationing. Now we had it, stretching ahead of us, open and possible, and ours. Okay, I said, squeezing his hand. Let's take our time. Starting now? Starting now. Sinclair raised her ice cream spoon like a champagne glass. To Mommy and Mr. Romano not being emotionally constipated anymore. To new beginnings, Mikhail corrected gently. To family, I added, looking at both of them. This man I loved, and this daughter who'd given me the courage to try. We clinked spoons and sundae bowls together, laughing like normal people doing normal things, and for the first time in my entire adult life, I felt something I'd almost forgotten existed. Peace. Not the fragile kind that shatters at loud noises, not the temporary kind that requires constant vigilance, but the real kind, the kind that settles into your bones and says you're safe now, you can rest, you can breathe, you can be happy. Craig was in prison. Sinclair was thriving. I had a career I loved, and a man who loved me back, and a future that looked nothing like my past. I'd survived. More than survived. I'd transformed. And maybe, just maybe, the best part of my story was just beginning. That night, after Sinclair was asleep, Mikhail and I sat on the estate's back terrace under a sky full of stars. She's going to plan our entire wedding, you know, I said, down to the napkin colors. I'm counting on it. He pulled me closer. Though I should probably officially ask first. Ask what? Don't play dumb. You know what? My heart stuttered. Mikhail, we just said I love you for the first time today. Maybe we should let that breathe before. I'm not asking today. He kissed my temple. But I am putting you on notice that I'm going to ask. Soon, because I don't see the point in waiting when I already know you're it for me. It? The person I want to wake up next to. The partner I want building this empire. The woman I want raising kids with, whether that's just Sinclair or if we add to the family someday. You're it, Elsa. End of story. I should have been scared. Should have needed more time to process, more therapy sessions to work through fears, more proof that this wasn't another trap. But Dr. Herrick's voice echoed, "What does healing look like when the danger is gone?" It looked like this, saying yes to love, saying yes to possibility, saying yes to the life I'd been too afraid to dream of. Okay, I whispered. Okay. What? Okay, put me on notice. Okay, I'll say yes when you ask. Okay to all of it. The waking up together and the partnership and the family and whatever else we figure out along the way. I turned to face him fully. I'm choosing you, Mikhail. I'm choosing us. And I'm choosing to believe that maybe I deserve this. You deserve everything. He cupped my face in his hands, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. We kissed under the stars while somewhere inside, our daughter, because she was ours now, both of ours, slept peacefully for the first time in months. And I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, broken, beaten, convinced her life would never be more than survival. If I could go back and tell her what was coming, the rescue and the healing, the job and the love, the man and the future and the happiness, she wouldn't have believed it. But she would have been wrong. Because here I was, living proof that transformation was possible, that you could survive hell and still build heaven, that 3 hearts, damaged and scared and learning to trust, could find each other and become something stronger together than they ever were apart. This was my happy ending. No, this was my happy beginning. And the story was just getting started. 3 years later. The foundation's ribbon-cutting ceremony fell on a perfect October morning. The kind where the sky is impossibly blue and the air smells like possibility. I stood at the podium, microphone in hand, looking out at the crowd gathered for the grand opening of the McLemore Romano Center for Survivors. 200 people. Donors, advocates, survivors, press, city officials. And in the front row, Sinclair, now 9 years old and wearing her junior advocate badge with fierce pride. Beside her, Mikhail, holding our 18-month-old son, Marcus, who was more interested in his father's tie than the proceedings. And beside Mikhail, the reason any of this was possible, Catherine, dabbing her eyes with a tissue because she'd been crying since the moment we unveiled the building's name. 3 years ago, I began, and my voice didn't shake. I was a woman with nothing but a daughter, a dream, and a desperate need for safety. I'd survived years of abuse. I'd escaped with garbage bags full of our belongings. I was working 3 jobs, taking online classes, and planning yet another escape because my abuser had found me again. I caught Mikhail's eye. He smiled, that real smile, the one Sinclair had noticed all those years ago in an ice cream shop. I thought survival was the finish line. I thought if I could just stay alive, just keep Sinclair safe, just make it one more day, that would be enough. I paused, gathering the words I'd rehearsed 100 times, but still felt raw to say. I was wrong. Survival isn't the finish line, it's the starting line. A few people nodded. Some wiped their eyes. I saw women in the crowd whose stories I knew, women who'd come through our pilot programs, women who'd been exactly where I'd been. The McLemore Romano Center exists because I learned something crucial. You can't heal what's still actively hunting you. You can't build a future when you're running from the past. You can't become who you're meant to be when you're just trying to stay alive. I gestured to the building behind me. 3 stories, state-of-the-art security, 50 residential units, job training facilities, childcare center, legal aid offices, therapy suites. This place gives survivors what I was given: time, space, resources, and most importantly, belief that they deserve more than survival. The applause started small, then built. I let it wash over me. This moment I'd been working toward for 3 years, since that conversation in Mikhail's office, when he'd asked what I wanted, and I'd finally let myself dream big. We offer 18-month residential programs with job training, education support, legal advocacy, therapy, and childcare. We don't just help women escape, we help them rebuild. We don't just offer shelter, we offer transformation. I looked directly at the cameras, knowing this would air on local news. And to every woman watching who's still trapped, still scared, still convinced she has no options, you do. This place is for you. This belief is for you. This future is for you. More applause. I saw Sinclair clapping wildly, Marcus trying to mimic her with his chubby hands. I want to thank my partner in this, in everything, Mikhail Romano. I met his eyes across the space between us. Who taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom? Who showed me that power used correctly builds up instead of tears down? Who believed in me before I believed in myself? He mouthed, "I love you." I mouthed it back. And I want to thank my daughter Sinclair, her face lit up, who at 6 years old had the courage to ask the question that changed our lives, "When are you two getting married?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Sinclair beamed. Because she was right. We were being emotionally constipated. More laughter. And sometimes it takes a child's clarity to see what adults are too scared to acknowledge. That love is worth the risk. That family comes in many forms. That healing happens in community. I took a breath, emotion catching up with me. So, this building, this foundation, this mission, it's not mine. It's ours. Every person who donated, volunteered, believed in this vision. Every survivor who trusted us with their story. Every child who deserves to grow up watching their mother become powerful instead of small. My voice cracked. Thank you for helping us build this. Thank you for believing women like me deserve second chances. Thank you for proving that transformation isn't just possible, it's inevitable when you give people the resources to heal. Standing ovation. I looked out at the crowd, some crying, some cheering, all believing in this impossible thing we'd built. Stephanie Quinones, now the foundation's legal director, stepped up to cut the ribbon. Beside her, 3 program graduates, women who'd gone through our pilot, who'd rebuilt their lives, who were now employed and safe and thriving. Together, they cut the ribbon. The Macklemore Romano Center for Survivors officially opened. Later, after the press left, and the donors dispersed, and the speeches ended, I found Mikhail in what would become my office. Director of Operations, though I still kept my role as his executive PA because I'd learned I could do both, be both, have both. He was standing by the window, Marcus asleep against his shoulder, looking out at the grounds. You did it, he said without turning around. We did it. I came to stand beside him. I couldn't have. Don't. He looked at me then. Don't diminish what you accomplished. I wrote checks. You built a movement. There's a difference. You did more than write checks. I fell in love with you. Best investment I ever made. He grinned. Returns have been incredible. I laughed, leaned into him, careful not to wake Marcus. Our son, unexpected, terrifying, perfect. Born 2 years after that ice cream shop confession, carrying Mikhail's eyes and my determination and Sinclair's absolute certainty that he was her baby brother who she would protect forever. Where's our daughter? I asked. Giving tours to reporters. I tried to stop her, but she informed me very seriously that as junior advocate, it was her responsibility to share the mission. He shook his head fondly. She's 9 going on 30. She learned from watching strong women. I touched Marcus's sleeping head. He will too. He'll learn from watching his mother change the world. Mikhail shifted Marcus slightly. Did I tell you Dr. Herrick called? About what? She wants to refer clients here. Said you've created something she's been dreaming about for 20 years. Comprehensive care that actually addresses root causes instead of just symptoms. Pride bloomed warm in my chest. Really? Really. And there's more. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket with his free hand. This came today, from the governor's office. I opened it. Read it. Read it again because the words didn't make sense. They want to replicate the model? Statewide? They want to fund 10 more centers based on our blueprint, full state backing. You'd oversee implementation. I can't, how would I? However you want. You could hire a team, stay hands-on, step back and consult. It's your vision, Elsa. Your choice. Choice. That word that used to feel foreign now felt natural. I want to do it, I said slowly. I want to expand. But I also want, I gestured around us, to be present for this, for Marcus and Sinclair, for us. I don't want to get so lost in the mission that I forget why I'm doing it. Then we'll figure out how to do both. Boundaries, balance, delegation. We'll make it work. He kissed my forehead. We always do. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching through the window as Sinclair led a group of reporters around the grounds, gesturing enthusiastically, probably sharing way too much information with her characteristic lack of filter. Do you ever think about him? Mikhail asked quietly. Craig? I considered it honestly. Sometimes. When I see women come through intake with that same haunted look I used to wear, when I hear stories that sound too familiar, when I remember who I was before. I paused. But not with fear anymore, with gratitude. Gratitude? For showing me who I didn't want to be. For teaching me what real strength looks like by demonstrating what weakness disguised as power looks like, for being the catalyst that brought me here. I looked up at him. I don't forgive him. I'll never forgive him, but I'm grateful for what surviving him made me become. A force of nature. A woman who knows her worth, I corrected gently. There's a difference. Marcus stirred, made that little sound that meant he'd wake up cranky if we didn't move soon. Mikhail started swaying automatically, the practiced motion of a father who'd learned to soothe. I should feed him before he realizes he's hungry, I said. I'll get Sinclair. She's probably convinced those reporters to feature her in a follow-up piece. Probably, I smiled. She's her mother's daughter. Terrifying and brilliant. Yes, she is. We moved through the building together, my family, the one I'd built from ruins, the one I'd chosen and been chosen by. In the lobby, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. Saw the woman I'd become, confident, purposeful, powerful in ways that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with choice. 31 years old, mother of 2, wife to a man who saw me as an equal, director of a foundation that would help thousands, still in therapy because healing is ongoing, still having occasional nightmares because trauma doesn't disappear. Still learning how to accept good things without waiting for them to be taken away, but surviving. No, thriving, living, building, becoming. Craig had 8 more years in prison. I had a lifetime of possibility ahead. That night, after Sinclair and Marcus were asleep, Mikhail found me in our bedroom, the master suite in the estate's east wing that had stopped feeling like borrowed space and started feeling like home. I was looking at the program from today's ceremony, tracing the foundation's name with my finger. What are you thinking? He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. That I keep waiting for someone to tell me this isn't real, that I don't deserve it, that it's going to be taken away. Elsa, I know it's real. I know I earned it. But some part of me still can't believe, my voice caught, that I get to keep it, the happiness, the family, the purpose, all of it. He turned me around to face him. You know what I think? What? I think you're allowed to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think you're allowed to just be happy, uncomplicated, unreserved, unapologetically happy. He cupped my face. You've done the work. You've survived and healed and built something incredible. You've earned the right to enjoy it. Just like that? Just like that. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe that happiness could be this simple. A choice. A decision to accept good things without constantly scanning for threats. Okay, I whispered. Okay? Okay. I choose to be happy, right now, without qualifications or apologies or fear. I smiled, felt it reach all the way to my eyes. I choose this life, this family, this future. I choose it all. Good. He kissed me, soft and sure and full of promise. Because we're just getting started. And he was right. The foundation would grow. 10 centers became 20, became a national model. My story would be told in interviews and articles, and eventually a book that helped other women see their own path forward. Sinclair would grow up confident and fierce, would go to college studying social work, would continue the mission. Marcus would grow up watching his mother change the world and learn that strength comes in many forms. But that night, none of that had happened yet. That night was just us, a family built from choice, held together by love, proof that transformation was possible. I'd been a woman with nothing but survival instincts and a desperate hope for better. I'd become a woman with everything, not because someone gave it to me, but because I'd built it, piece by piece, choice by choice, day by day. From the ashes of who I'd been forced to be, I'd become who I was meant to be. And as I stood in that bedroom with my husband's arms around me, and my children sleeping peacefully down the hall, and a foundation bearing my name, ready to help thousands find their own transformation, I finally let myself believe it. I was safe. I was loved. I was worthy. I was home. 5 years later, Sinclair stood at a podium during the Macklemore Romano Center's anniversary celebration, 14 years old and composed beyond her years. My mom tells a story about the day we were saved, she began, and I watched from the audience, Mikhail's hand in mine, Marcus beside us at 8 years old. Our youngest daughter, Hope, 3 years old and named for what we'd found together, asleep in my lap. She talks about the day Mr. Romano, my dad, knocked on our door and found us broken and scared. She talks about how he gave us safety and opportunity and love. Sinclair paused, looked directly at us. But here's what she doesn't talk about enough. She saved herself. My throat tightened. She's the one who took online classes while working 3 jobs. She's the one who documented everything Craig did so the case would stick. She's the one who had the courage to testify. She's the one who turned her survival into a mission to help others. Sinclair's voice grew stronger. My dad opened doors, but my mom walked through them, and then she built more doors for other women to walk through too. I was crying now. So was Catherine. So was basically everyone who knew our story. So when people ask me what it's like having parents who run a foundation, I tell them it's like having front row seats to miracles. Because I've watched my mom transform from someone who apologized for existing to someone who demands space. I've watched women come through those doors broken and leave powerful. I've watched my dad use his resources to build instead of control. And I've learned that family isn't just who you're born to. It's who chooses you, who fights for you, who shows you what love looks like when it's not wrapped in fear. She looked at us again, smiled through her own tears. Mom, Dad, thank you for showing me that happy endings are real, that healing is possible, that love wins. She raised her glass. To the Macklemore Romano Center. To every woman who walks through these doors, and to the family that proved transformation isn't just a theory, it's a choice we make every single day. The crowd erupted in applause. Mikhail kissed my temple. Our daughter just made a better speech than both of us combined. She learned from the best, I said, watching Sinclair beam at the crowd. She learned from you. She learned from us. All of us. Marcus tugged my sleeve. Can I make a speech next year? Absolutely. I'm going to talk about how baby Hope drools. That's important information. Very important, Mikhail agreed solemnly. Hope stirred in my lap, opened her eyes, Mikhail's dark eyes in my face, and smiled that toothless 3-year-old smile that said she felt safe, loved, chosen. And I realized this was it. This was the answer to every question I'd asked in therapy, every fear I'd voiced in the dark, every doubt I'd harbored about whether I deserved good things. I deserved this. Not because I'd suffered enough to earn it, but because I'd chosen to heal, to grow, to build instead of hide. Thank you for believing in their story. If it touched you, share it with someone who needs to believe healing is possible. Because it is possible. Not easy, not simple, not without work and time and support and resources, but possible. I was living proof. We all were. 3 hearts that had found each other in the wreckage, a woman surviving, a man searching for meaning, a child needing safety. We'd become a family, built a foundation, changed lives, and in doing so, we'd changed ourselves. From broken to whole, from surviving to thriving. From afraid to free. This was our happy ending. No, our happy continuing. Because the best stories don't end. They transform, they expand, they become something bigger than what any single moment could contain. And ours? Ours was just getting started. The Macklemore Romano Center for Survivors is fictional, but organizations like it exist. If you or someone you know needs help, National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Text, START to 88788. You deserve safety. You deserve healing. You deserve a future beyond survival. And it's possible. I promise you, it's possible.